Step outside the wall.
This is outside the wall. Outside the wall.
This is Outside the Walls, a podcast about breaking limiting beliefs and building a life that's actually yours. Through conversations about mindset, purpose, and life, I'm Dave Gast. Let's step outside the walls. You ever notice how some people seem to always end up in the right rooms over and over again? The right conversations, the right opportunities, the right relationships. And from the outside looking in, it looks lucky. But most of the time, it's not luck. They kept showing up. That sounds simple, almost too simple. And have you ever heard the quote, "The harder you work, the luckier you get"? Well, that kind of fits here. I had a conversation recently that reminded me how powerful that really is. And it hit me harder than expected because in a world where people disappear fast, consistency stands out. I was sitting down with a bank chair having a conversation that started pretty casually, very spontaneous, absolutely nothing formal. Two people having a conversation about business and leadership. And I asked, what's the biggest challenge you face managing people these days? He told me it's getting people to show up. And he also learned he could trust by watching who consistently showed up. Not the loudest people, not the smartest people in the room, the people who kept showing up to meetings, to difficult conversations, to opportunities that didn't immediately impact and benefit them. And he said something like, eventually you stop wondering about someone's intention when you consistently see their presence. Wow, that really hit me because a lot of people want results without repetition. People want influence without consistency, and they want relationships without investing time. They want opportunities while avoiding uncomfortable situations. Life just doesn't typically work like that, and neither do meaningful relationships. I started thinking about sports for a second. You ever notice how coaches trust certain players late in the game? Sometimes it's not even the most talented athlete. It's the player who showed up every day in practice, the player who stayed consistent when nobody was watching, the player that coach never had to worry about because they knew the playbook inside and out. The same thing happens in business, leadership, friendships, and life in general. People remember reliability, especially now because dependability has become so rare. Showing up is one of the most underrated skills in the world. Not glamorous, not flashy, but powerful. And it certainly is not complicated. Showing up, that builds trust before words ever do. It tells people, hey, I care enough to be here. I'm invested, and you can count on me. And that applies everywhere. Your relationships, your health, career, goals. And these breakthroughs happen because somebody kept showing up long enough for momentum to finally kick in. Many people quit way too early because they don't see those immediate results. But sometimes your consistency is building credibility you don't even see yet. Sometimes people are quietly watching how dependable you are, asking themselves, can this person be counted on? Will they disappear when things get inconvenient and tough? Will they still show up when there's no applause attached to it? Showing up also changes you. It builds confidence. It builds discipline. It builds identity. That is your brand. You start becoming the kind of person who follows through, and it's just a natural part of your day. And that's where growth starts to get real. A lot of people are one stretch of consistency away from changing their life. Not perfection, consistency. That conversation that I had with that bank chair reminded me that people may not remember every word you say, but they do remember your presence. They remember your reliability. They remember who kept showing up. And maybe today, that's the reminder that we all need. You don't have to have everything figured out. You just have to keep showing up. So think about that this week when you're debating with yourself about, should I go to that seminar that I've been thinking about attending? Yeah, should I hire that coach? Should I implement that new process? Think about those things, because eventually people will stop asking the question whether you belong on the team, because your consistency already answered that question. And that's what living outside the walls really looks like.
This is outside the wall. Outside the wall.
Thanks for listening. Share this episode with someone that's ready to grow. I'm Dave Gast. Keep stepping outside the walls.